You'll call the roll for us.
Senator Albritton. Senator Chambliss. Senator Chasteen. Representative Daniels. Representative Faulkner. Senator Figures. Representative Garrett. Mr. Speaker. Senator Livingston. Representative Lovern. Representative Moore. Senator Orr. Pro Tem Pringle. Pro Tem Reed. Representative Reynolds.
Here.
Representative Shedd.
Here.
Senator Singleton. Senator Smitherman.
Here.
Representative Stadhagen. Senator Gavan.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Okay, the first thing we've got is consideration of the minutes from the meeting on September 26. Is there a motion to approve those?
So move.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, the next thing we've got to do in tab B is certify the special session cost from 2023, which is we're in the amount of $146,750. So is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
The second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's certified. The state can write the legislature a check. Okay, the next thing we've got is a presentation on the State House construction progress. It's been nice to look out the window and see lots of interesting holes filled with concrete and being dug and redug.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think to give a little bit of context to this, and the presentation's about to go up on these screens, and the same presentation for those of you in the audience or watching streaming is available on the website under the Joint Resources tab and under the Legislative Council on that tab. And today, if you look at this first slide, you'll notice the proposed new State House in the upper right corner. A beautiful park where this space is, and a parking deck and park in between here and the Folsom building. To give a little bit of context, the presentation today is going to focus on the RSA portion of the building, portion of the project, which is the new building itself, this park space, the demolition of this building, the building of this park space, and the building of the parking deck is a phase 2 of the project that we'll be talking about in the future, and that you've been hearing about as the budgets have progressed in the 2 chambers, as we try to get some money put away for those parts of the project, which will be paid for with cash as opposed to part of the RSA agreement. But today we're going to focus on the building itself and the developments that have been happening and walking through the plans of those. And Mr. Chairman, with that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Wallace from Goodwin Mills in Kaywood. He's the lead architect on this project and familiar to a lot of us, and done a lot of work with RSA and some of the great buildings around the state that they're involved with, and has been spearheading this effort. And with your permission, he's going to walk us through a few of these plans and give us an update.
All right, thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Thank you, Thee and members of the House and Senate. Thank you for allowing us to make this presentation today. You know, I think September is when you said go, and it's been a dead run since then. We've been working real hard, fast and furious. You mentioned the hole in the ground out there. A lot's been done since September. And today I'd like to do a couple things. One, introduce you to our team, Freddie, Lynn, Tracy Bassett, who are project executives with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood. And of course, most of you probably know the RSA group. Nia Scott, who we call as our project manager on this, but Steve Timms, Joe Toole, and Brant Hill, they're who we respond to directly just on a regular basis, as well as Dr. Bronner, of course. But today, a little bit more about the team. And the team is not just GMC, but 75% of the teammates, mechanical, electrical, structural, architecture, environmental, all those engineers, civil, are all from Alabama, and all of them take an immense amount of pride in this particular project. And you can see it every day in the work product that they're producing. We do have some out-of-town folks that are, think, experts in the field. RAMSA, Robert A.M. Stern Architects out of New York, they're involved because they're classical design architects. So they're our architect consultant, if you will, on aspects of the project. We do have a parking deck consultant. Many of you know that site falls 25 foot from Jackson down to Ripley. And because of that, we've tucked 2 levels of parking in there, and it's pretty complicated building a building on top of that. So we've got a great parking deck consultant out of Charlotte. And then a lighting consultant. I think this is something, as this project unfolds, it's going to be very interesting to be involved in. How do we light this project, and what do we need to do there? So we've got a lighting consultant out of Philadelphia that just so happened to do the Oval Office. So good team, all said. Today really is going to walk you through a slide deck, not too many slides, but walk you through the project where we are now. So with that, first slide is the elevation, the west elevation. So if you're at the Capitol, the existing Capitol, and you're looking back across that plaza, park, whatever that is that Anthony described, and you see that front elevation. And really tried to take our cue, the context we tried to use as the context of the existing Capitol in the Archives building. You think about that colonnade of 6 columns across there. We try to weave that into the fabric of this, the context of this particular building, to keep this a timeless building that's going to be here for 150 years, that we're going to be proud of. It's going to fit seamlessly into the Capitol complex project. So that's where a lot of this architecture came from, is looking around at other buildings in the complex and saying, these are elements that we need to factor into our particular project. Now, I'm going to walk you through this real quickly, but just so you'll know that hierarchy, if you look, and I hope everybody can see this, but if you look, if you look at the lower level, that's the entry level. That next level is the small committee rooms, and you'll see that in just a second as we walk through the plans. The next level up, that third level, is where the larger conference rooms are, and the medium-sized conference room. And because of the scale of those spaces, you need higher volume spaces. Therefore, it gives you an opportunity to have higher ceilings and a little bit broader windows. The next level up is what we call the leadership floor, and that's on that 4th level across there. The 5th floor is where the chambers are, and then the 6th level is where the gallery is going to be. So that's the way that building stacks. The site plan. Site plan is bound by Washington on the south, Jackson on the east side, Pelham, which we're having to close because there's a lot of stuff that supports this building, like mechanical, structural, things like that. So that Pelham is going to be partially closed to allow that to happen. And then Ripley Street, as you see in the front of the building, on the western part of the building, will tie into whatever happens across the street. We do enter the building, the parking deck, to be about 185 spaces or thereabouts on that Washington Street side. All right, first floor. Everybody's got that in front of them. The first floor is really, as you enter, there's going to be controlled access. There's really 3 means of access, egress in the building. One's the front entry, and then 2 on the side where you see the little red arrows. That's because we can keep control of the building a little bit. So when you first enter the building, there'll be these magnetometers like you have now that allow you to pass through some detection device into a main 3-story element that's going to be able to connect the public to the 2 floors above that, of which are where the the committee rooms are. The small committee rooms on the next level, the larger committee rooms on that 3rd level. So what you'll see is that central, I call a central organizing element right there in the center there, is where the public will come into and then vertically ascend to some of those other floors. Also a nice amenity that was requested is the multi-purpose room on that north side. And if you remember the site plan, that will give you the opportunity to spill out into a plaza area that was created by vacating parts of Pelham. Real quickly, other parts of the first floor is you have the governor's suite, you have executive budget office, and an outpost for the Secretary of State. As you go to the next level, this is where the small committee rooms are. And the small committee rooms are all capable of about 75 people, something like that, holding 75 people, of which 16 members of the legislature can be around a U-shaped table there. And the total capacity of the room is going to be about 100 because there may be some support staff as well. So most of this floor, and you see Senate indicated in blue and the House indicated in kind of a light rose color, you have 6 committee rooms on that level. And that's mainly what this is, but again, accessible from the first level by the public through a main grand central staircase. Next floor up, you have the larger committee rooms that we talked about, the large volume rooms. And we have the medium and a large conference room on that floor, as well as a joint committee room. Now, if you look on that western side, let me kind of show you that. If you look on that western side, everything towards the west, those will all have sloped floors, those committee rooms. So it'd be really nice to be able to come in there, structured seating, sloped floors. The back part of the building, the T-wing, if you will, that area back there is where all the offices are. And that's typical all the way through the building. The offices are going to be on that east side.
Excuse me. What would the large committee room, I mean, can you give a comparison to the size room we're in? Right now, this is the best we've got. That would be the show place there.
Well, you went to Virginia. I mean, Virginia had a really nice committee room set up so that it's floor sloped. It's around 225 people thereabouts, and you'll be able to seat around 200 or so with, I think, 26 members around the seating area. So it's going to be paneled. It'll have nice architectural woodwork. And in terms of size, it would be bigger than this room by approximately, probably, I'm going to guess 15, 20%. Next level up is really that 2-floor level. So when you see a lot of vacant spaces there, those spaces on that level are all 2-story levels of the committee rooms. But then we still are able to pick up the office spaces in that T-wing to the right. The other thing I should point out is on that particular floor, members' offices are house. So everything coded in rose or pink is the House offices. Next level up is where the leadership is. You have on the north side, you have the House leadership spiraling around the majority leaders, majority caucus room, and then on the south end you'll have the Senate, which again is circling around the majority caucus room, Senate majority caucus room. You have a suite for the Lieutenant Governor in yellow in that area. Because of the number of House members, we have 2 floors of House members versus 1 floor for the Senate, which you'll see in just a second. Next level is the chamber. Chamber, and we'll go through this in just a second because I know how important the chambers are to the function of government. Chambers are a little small now. Obviously in the House we've got columns there, so we're going to show you a little bit about how we've navigated through that. But on this level you come up to a main grand entry to the chambers. Chambers are on the same floor, House to the north, Senate to the south, and then a hall, which I think is going to be very nice, a front hall that will look out over that plaza and out over the Capitol when you're in that volume of space. As you can see, around both chambers, you have the support spaces needed to conduct the business, the proofing, the rolling, and all those things that are needed to conduct the business of those particular spaces. As I mentioned earlier, the Senate is on this wing to the right, Senate offices. And then we end up the House Gallery and Senate Gallery up on the next level. What I think is, you saw from the elevation, you saw a dome up on top. What you're going to be able to see on this level is the dome above and the chambers below. So it'll be almost a 3-story space looking from the chamber level up through the gallery level up into the dome. There's the gallery space. And we're looking at, for the gallery, you're picking up a few more spaces. I think currently you have in the House about 135 spaces and really no handicapped. And we're moving to about 146 and then also having 5 handicapped seats up there as well. On the Senate side, we're currently around 121 up in the gallery, and we'll end up with about 140 with handicap seats. All right, the next one I think you'll find of interest, Historic Capitol, Senate chamber, around 2,100 feet. The current chamber is around 2,700 feet, and the new chamber proposed in this new building is going to be around 3,000 square foot, so about a 10% increase in size. And on the next slide, you'll see what that does. That allows us a little more flexibility, a little more room space, a little more aisle space to move around. It's a little congested around the podii, and so I think it gives us some breathing room there as well as other parts of the chamber. And then we just starting to script what it's going to look like. So if you walk in the Senate chamber and look straight ahead, you'll see an elevation starting to develop that looks like this, with natural glass, natural light coming in from glass above, and then as you can see where the voting devices are up through the top part of that. Very, again, to represent or replicate the outside, a very classical looking interior. We walk to the Senate, or the House side, excuse me. Historic is around 2,800 square feet. Current, you have about 3,400, very tight, congested in there, and the proposed is about 4,200 square feet. So we're looking at about a 25% premium for the House, adding about 25% more square footage. And as you can see on the other side, on the right side, the typical aisle spacing, you pick up some flexibility there, some breadth of movement. And then also an interior elevation for the House side. Same thing on the House side, the Senate side, an oval-shaped window allowing you natural light to come in. Last slide's where we started.
Thank you. Questions from the members? Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is, will there be more space in the House and Senate chambers? And also, will the Senate floor with the rows of seats at least be elevated like it is in the House rather than just level?
Senator Figures, it is flat. But what we've done is we've added raceways, if you will, underneath there so that you can modify as needed over time. So there are raceways there, but it's not sloped. It is bigger. The chambers, both on the House and Senate side, are bigger, but they aren't sloped.
I wasn't really expecting to see the same thing that we had in the chambers. I expect them to be a little different. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Smitherman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just need for you, you know, I might have, it might have gone over my head what I'm asking, and if it is, I apologize if it did, but if it didn't, I need you to just kind of go wherever you need to go on that and show me where I'm gonna be. Because I ain't seen nothing about minority, no nothing, no name, no little check,
got the sweet
aura,
view,
or nothing. Right now, it don't look like I'm gonna even phase in this whole process. So I just want to know where in the world am I gonna be, where the minority caucus is gonna be, and et cetera, those kind of things.
Good point, sir. I guess it'd be the right side, the T that I mentioned earlier, is still being resolved. There's some changes we made as late as last week that were done. That's why it's not shown or articulated to the extent that may be part of the front part of it is.
Hey, if you'll speak in the microphone, people are having a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry. Yep, trying to command. Yeah, on the right side or the T side, that particular element's still under design. We made changes as late as last week, the week before, and therefore it's not as articulated as the more public side or the left side. But the minority caucuses and minority leadership is on the right side.
Okay, in I guess, let me put it this way. I think that we would like to have some input, especially since you say you in it, getting it together now. So it'd be different if you already got it all locked in. That should probably make a lot of changes. But since you have not, we would like to have some input, you know. And I mean, I know they don't mind, but I'm just saying I don't want you to overlook the fact that we would like to have some input as you get ready to go do different things. Sure. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
At least some input, whether it works or whether it should be or not, okay?
Senator, I would point out some things that kind of came out of my trip to Virginia, and Senator Gudger and I went to Virginia and looked at the State House there. You know, we don't know what the future holds. I mean, we know what it is today. In Virginia, they have a very divided, you know, at least, I don't know about the House, but the Senate, I mean, it just kind of goes back and forth a little bit at a time. And so, I mean, what we had to envision was, you know, look, it might be that someday it's about a 50-50. And so, you know, the size of the minority caucus room, you know, things like that have been taken into consideration because the idea is this is going to be here for a long time. And, you know, we have to think about, you know, what if roles are reversed, you know? So those things are being discussed and have been discussed. And then, you know, I think it is a point, Senator, that we are getting to not too far from, and I'm not sure when we need to speak or forever hold our peace, but we will need to be, you know, having some more input from the, what's our official title of the minority leaders and the majority leaders? Design subcommittee. So, you know, speak out to your favorite design subcommittee member and bend their ear about that and seek out answers is what I would suggest to everybody, because we are, just as we're running out of runway in the session, we're running out of runway to make decisions, you know, to change things as we go forward.
Just if we can be updated in those points at those periods, that would be helped tremendously. I think that I appreciate the invitation you just mentioned, but if we don't know, for instance, he's working on a 2-week something, and you know, they said, well, you had 2 weeks. We don't know it's a 2-week deadline. We don't know. We need to know when we got to get it there, whatever the time frame, so we'll know how much time we have to address what we have. And I'm gonna say this, you know, I understand what you just told me about reaching out. See, I like to reach out to the big boss, so I'll be doing some reaching out to you.
I'll give you Anthony's number.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Representative Garrett.
So I have one question. Will the public have access to all the spaces, or will that be confined? Or
Back to the plan. Representative Garrett, where the T starts, there is access there. There is controlled access there. I mean, how folks can go back there, but it's controlled. There are people, there are gatekeepers, I guess is a good word for it, just to you know, allow folks in and out.
So I guess the bottom line is that the public will have, once they go through the screening process, as well as the lobbyists, which presumably will have expedited, and as well as, you know, other government officials, expedited access. Once they get in, they would be able to, you know, go along the offices just as they do today. Now, what about is a decision been made? My recollection is they would only staff and members would be able to go in between the chambers. Is that how that's designed?
That's right. I mean, we obviously look Pat, John, and Anthony for leadership there, but right now that is the way that's configured, so that on that chamber floor, public has access below and above it, but it's your discretion to let them on that particular floor.
Representative Faulkner.
Bill, I was going to ask you, when you answered Senator Figures, when I was looking at the chart on the second to last page, or it was of the existing House chamber, it kind of had that's our existing seating plan. It's just showing that there's going to be 25% more floor area. Right. But the design, it will be I mean, I assume there's experts that'll come up with how that's designed, and will the house still be elevated levels like we are now?
I think that's what Senator Figures was asking. It's all flat now.
I know the Senate is now, and it was going to be, but the House is elevated now.
Yeah, and it's going to be flat as well. It is flat. Now, you pick up, if you look, you can see the configuration of the current versus the proposed. It's a lot big, well, 25% bigger space, so it's a good bit bigger. I think the decision was made, you know, when you start to elevate things or slope things and all, there's tripping hazards and all that. So I think I guess maybe the decision was made, let's keep it level on one floor to avoid any of those ADA issues and some other issues that come along with stepped or sloped floors.
Okay, and then the size, the design will be made appropriate for the new space. It won't just follow what we have currently.
And Representative Faulkner, that's a great point, is we have as one of our team members, we have almost it's like a theater consultant, and they're helping us with sight lines. So from the gallery up above, but also from the individual desks.
Right.
They're going to be doing sight lines so that, and we figure out how high to elevate the dais and those things, so we'll know what the best sight lines are. They're engaged and they're working on that right now.
We can get rid of those big columns we have in there now that block us from.
You know, there's been a running joke about those two columns there. Maybe we need to just put something in there to surprise everybody that they're not being gone, but that joke didn't go over too well. So, no, they're gone. Columns are gone.
Any other questions from the members? Pro Tem?
I've watched y'all do the footings, the foundations, the pilings, and it's fascinating, but when are we going to see the underground drainage and utilities, that process, and start bringing the building out of the ground?
I probably should have gone through that real quickly.
I'm the only one to be interested.
Kind of let you know that in September, we hit the ground running.
Yeah.
In October, we had a program. In January, we had a deep foundation package, and many of you have said they've looked out their window or they've gone by there and seen the deep foundations going in. In February and March, we put out a superstructure package. That's a concrete frame, and it's been bid, it's been awarded, and we suspect that's going to start in the next week or two, and that's the concrete frame. That's the three-dimensional element of it that you're going to see real shortly.
But have y'all done the underground drainage and electrical and plumbing, sewage?
Yeah, well, we've worked with, give these guys a lot of credit, they've worked with the city and the power company and all the different utility providers to make sure those things are integrated in the right spots. They're not in yet,
Yeah.
but they will be.
I just didn't know when you were going to start it, because I'd noticed that. Okay, that's fine. Thank you so much.
Senator Figures.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the projected date that this project will be completed and ready to move in?
Why are you putting me on the spot? No, I think Dr. Bronner would love to see the project complete by the end of 2025. And so that's been our task, to try to get this thing moving and completed by that time. Jesco is the construction manager on the project. Good to work with. We were with them yesterday, talking schedule, and that's the mandate. So that's what we're working towards.
So the end by December of
yeah.
2025?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If there are no other questions, I'd like Othny to give us sort of what he sees as the schedule.
Thank you, Senator. Couple of real quick points. Bill, thank you very much. I think I certainly speak for myself and for Pat and for John. It's been an incredible experience working with you and your team and working with the RSA team on this, and we're really excited about where we are and where we're continuing to go. Senator Figures, to your question, from the very beginning, it's been our commitment and goal that the legislature would be functional in the new building for the organizational session in 2027. I think it's important to understand there's kind of two parts to the schedule. The first part is construction of the building. The second part is making that building function for a legislature, which includes a number of specialized things, including voting systems, our production systems, the technology that's necessary to go in. And so I think it's really important that we not leave here with a false sense of hope about when the legislature is functioning in the building. The legislature will be functioning in the building January of 27 for the organizational session of the next quadrennium, and that's been our commitment from day one and our goal from day one. And so it's exciting that the construction is moving at a quicker pace, but I think it's important to understand that piece of it. I want to also mention, to reiterate Senator Gavan's point, obviously there's been a subcommittee of this council that's been working very hard and more regularly on the updates of these various designs, and that's Senator Gavan, Pro Tem Pringle, Representative Daniels, Senator Singleton, Representative Reynolds, and Senator Livingston. And so those are the 6 people who, along with John and Pat, should be working back with the 2 respective bodies to make sure that we're meeting the marks about all the spaces that we need, everything, the wish list of what everybody has to have and the proximities to the offices. And there's been a lot of work done on that. And as Bill mentioned, on that back half, or kind of the working half of the building, so to speak, as opposed to the public and ceremonial spaces, as recently as 2 weeks ago, we made some pretty significant renovations to try to make those more functional in response to the feedback that we've gotten from that design committee and other members who have looked. And at all times, I know Pat, John, and I each have a set of these plans in our offices, and any member can come and talk to us, and we can look at things in a little bit more detail and gather that feedback. 2 more kind of quick things. I highlighted this at the beginning, but I do think as we think about the planning of this, it's important to understand there's 2 parts. The building itself, and that's moving along very nicely. And anybody who's followed what's happened in the public, and I know there's been reporting on this, knows that the RSA ticket, if I'm using the right phrase, or possible investment, is a $350 million cap. It is our goal and expectation to come in under that cap. And to date, every piece of that they have bid out, to their credit, has come in under budget on each and every bid package to date, and hopefully that trend will continue with a goal of coming in closer to the $300 million mark than the $350 million mark. And of course, the bulk of that will then be amortized over the 25-year repayment period, at the end of which the legislature will own the building. And of course, as you all know from the agreement you all approved back in September, the legislature has the right to buy that out earlier than then. But I, for one, am looking very much forward to having some years of RSA management over the State House that we're living in, because we've all seen what a good job they do with that. And as we transition into a new building, I'm excited to have that. But it's important to understand there's a second piece to the project as well. And that second piece is going to be the demolition of this building, dealing with some pretty significant stormwater retention ponds, probably in the park, that gets built in this place to avoid future flooding issues in this space that we've all lived through before. And also the addition of the parking deck in the lot next door, that's going to allow not only all of our staff in this building to park, but also improve significantly the parking and access for the public and the visitors to this building as well. And those park spaces accommodating things like better school bus drop off and pick up, and facilities for the great number of students, both the 4th graders, the tens of thousands of 4th graders that visit this building every year, as well as the high school and college students that use it for various functions. And so it's important as we work through the next couple of budget cycles, and I appreciate the 4 budget chairmen who've been committed with us on this year, that we put aside money for those projects, because those are cash projects as they get done. And so we're really proud, obviously, of the RSA piece and the fact that we're under budget to date on all the bids, but it's important for us to plan for our part of that as well, so that when we're moving into this building and functioning in it for the next quadrennium, we've done all the pieces that are necessary to make that work. So I've probably rambled too long, Mr. Chairman, but I appreciate the opportunity to give that little bit extra wrap-up context.
Thank you, Osney. Senator Albritton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question on the, I appreciate you going through the aspect of the financing of the 2 pieces, one finance and one cash. What about the move-in cost? But from December 25 until 27, and all the accruals that you're talking about there, where's that money? Where's that come from?
That's going to come from the cash as well. Of course, Senator Albritton, as you know, and maybe this part of it's been a little bit less broadcast. The second part of that budget, what our request is going to be is that we think over the term of the next couple of years, we're going to have about $100 million budget on these extra pieces, including demolition in the park, putting in the computer systems and specialized voting systems into the building in a way that we wouldn't want to amortize over 25 years, and obviously the furnishings and other move-in costs as well. And so that's that second part of the budget that we've obviously been working with you and your colleagues on to make sure that we're putting aside the cash to handle those parts so that that's not done on the RSA ticket side of the shop.
I'll look forward to those further and future discussions with, anyway, we'll do it.
Representative Garrett.
Yes, Othniel, are there any plan in the master plan here for additional public parking what we have now?
Yes, sir. So if you look at and I guess the slide is back, Bill. I don't know if you still have the clicker and can go to that last slide you had. And again, at this point, this is very conceptual. We have not engaged actual design of this yet because it's not part of the RSA project. But if you look in that middle space, Representative Garrett, the top that you'll see a little parking deck sticking up that doesn't look like a parking deck because the goal would be hopefully to make it both attractive and have some event space on the top of it. But the goal is for that parking deck to be a 400 to 500 car parking deck. And that accommodates not only our staff and some of the staff in the adjoining buildings that have been displaced by losing that back parking lot, but also a significant increase in visitor parking and public access parking for the whole Capitol complex.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I will say that Senator Wagner has expressed a strong desire to actually serve in this new building. So everybody is encouraged to accommodate the rules chairman. If there are no other questions or comments, then we are adjourned.